Here's today's episode of Wild and Weird Old Articles. This one is from LaPorte, Pennsylvania, March 6, 1902. And if you've heard of the Magnetic Mountain at the North Pole, this one will interest you. It's titled A Mogul Magnet. It reads, after the explosion of the giant powder mills in Alabama, a party of northern capitalists purchased the dividends and determined to erect another factory upon the ill-fated spot where, for every year for 12 years, the mill had exploded, causing terrific loss and many deaths. The president of the company requested that I should visit Pittsburgh in search of a magnet endowed with sufficient power to attract an object of friction at a distance of 50 feet. Fortunately, while prospecting through the North and in Alaska, I formed the acquaintance of Captain Lawrence, late of the Pacific Steam Whaling Company, who kindly informed me that along the Yukon Delta there existed a peculiar lodestone of wonderful magnetism. To me, this information was invaluable, and I accordingly accepted his invitation to join the whalers, who were soon to leave on an expedition from Point Barrow. I was a little dubious of this adventure in spite of the promising report of the Delta. For 10 years previous, my brother Jim, my only surviving relative, sailed from Port Barrow with a Bob Lawrence, a brother of our captain. Wild fellows they were, too, and the result was the wreck of the revenue cutter and 4 whaling vessels. 900 men became castaways and eventually perished from hunger and long exposure on the sterile coast of Greenland. Okay, hold on to your hats. This story gets wild. He says, our voyage was replete with events thrilling and dangerous, and in my enthusiasm for the whaling business, I quite forgot my lodestone mission when it was brought to bear upon my mind in a thoroughly disagreeable way. So he basically goes on to say that he and the captain were standing on the deck talking when the crew came out and told them that the machinery in the power room quit working. Basically, all the machinery shut down, the steam died away, but the vessel's speed increased and began registering as high as 270 knots an hour. Their compass quit working. They didn't know what direction they were going. But he says, with a glass, I saw at a distance a mountain of dark color, and the secret of our speed was revealed. We were within the presence of the great Lodestone Mountain that both explorers, Ross and Franklin, believed to be near the pole, surrounded by waters presumably unnavigable. I want to take a minute and shout out the archivist. Thank you for sharing this on one of your videos. That's how I found this article. Go check him out if you haven't. He's awesome. He goes on to say, I knew that when we arrived within a certain distance, the attraction of this Mogul magnet would be so powerful that the vessel would be crushed to pieces against it. A hasty examination was made of the vessel. Nothing could be done to avoid the disastrous landing, for the hull was of heavy iron of the ordinary build, with fastenings of steel. So this iron ship was being pulled at a rapid speed, uncontrollably, towards this gigantic magnetic mountain near the North Pole. Like, is this real or is this fake news? All right, so he goes on to say they stopped worrying about the ship and just started worrying about not dying. They rigged up some ropes and they all hung on to the ropes. And so when the ship crashed into the magnetic mountain, they were able to survive the impact because they were swinging from ropes. Rather ingenious, if you ask me. I don't think I would have had the clarity of mind to think of doing that. He goes on to say that they reached the top of the mountain, that there were millions of grouse flying around, and he saw a charming situation under a group of overhanging cliffs, and there was the cozy habitation of a cliff dweller. So someone was living on this magnetic mountain. But that's not even the weird part. He goes on to say, what the dickens, exclaimed I. Can this be a mountain of cliff dwellers? I thought I was the only person who said what the dickens. Even as I said it, from an aperture in the rock, there limped out a Rip Van Winkle-looking fellow, clothed in a beautiful cloak of duck breasts. That's odd. And with a glorious crown of white locks. I thought I must have got a touch of the sun. How did he ever get here? Besides, he was alone, for we could easily see all over the mountain. That's interesting. So the mountain wasn't very big, and it must have been fairly clear if they could see over the whole thing. He says, I stared and stared, and so did the other man, and just at that instant the captain came up from the rear. Here, Cap, said I, is that a white man or a North Pole Joss? Then, all of a sudden, the white-haired man gave a cry and came hobbling toward me. When he got close, he fell down in a sort of faint. With a spring, I was by his side. Great powers! It was my brother Jim. Is this real? This is insane. Remember, at the beginning of the article, he mentioned his long-lost brother Jim, who was lost at sea. At the sound of the disturbance, another figure, also clad in sealskin, emerged from the cliffs and came running towards us. On seeing the captain, he too gave a cry. Cap, he hollowed, don't you know me, Bob, your brother? And he fell down at his kinsman's feet and rolled over and over, weeping with joy. Why don't they write articles like this in newspapers these days? Meanwhile, Jim began. 10 years ago, Lawrence and I were hurled against this mountain. The ship and the other 13 men went into the deep. Since then, we two have lived like a second Robinson Crusoe and his man, Friday, hoping against hope that some explorer might help us away, but none even came. And now you, of all people on earth, turn up and find us where you least expected. Wonderful. Most merciful, too. In a joyful manner, we all set to talking, relating the main features of our many adventures. Till exhausted from long exposure, we fell asleep. For here no day or night came, yet the world around us was mellowed with the delicate rays of the aurora borealis. He goes on to say that they managed to jimmy-rig their ship enough to make it back to the mainland in Newark, and while he always wished to return to the Mogul Magnet, he decided that life was too short to risk it. Truth truly is often stranger than fiction. Holy mackerel, what an article.